All right, welcome back. We are Game 3001 in the summer 2021 semester, and it is week 1, part 2 of our broadcast. We just finished talking about a little bit about the course introduction and what is Game AI. And now what I want to do is I want to talk about assignment 1 details. Again, assignment 1 is going to be due in 2 short weeks from now, so that's week 3. And let's talk about what assignment 1 is all about. And I'm sure you're going to have questions after this. You may sit there and say, okay, that's good, Tom. But if you come up with questions later, especially during labs and those kind of things, make sure you ask the questions so that way I can make sure, I kind of answer them as best as possible. I know it seems like normal, but some people don't ask any questions at all when the assignment is posted. And then when you start doing it, you're like, wait, how do you do this? What did he want? So I'm going to try and go through some of those right now. All right, so assignment 1, which is all around steering behaviors. We haven't talked about what those are. We're going to start talking about steering behaviors next week, right? This is due on Sunday, May 30th by midnight, okay? Now, when you think about May 30th, we're sitting at May 13th, and you're like, yeah, lots of time. I've got like 17 days, right? Yeah. Well, part of this is setup, and you can do this, ahead of time. A lot of it what we're getting you to do is understand how to put together a scene and what a scene is. So you're going to learn the framework. This is an individual assignment. You're not going to work on this with anybody else, just you. There's going to be some criteria marked as mandatory, which means you need to do these pieces in order for you to get full marks on the assignment. If you don't do those pieces, you won't pass. All right, you need to do those pieces. If it's marked mandatory, you're not going to, and if you don't do it, you just won't pass. All right, just letting you know, even if it's worth less marks. And the reason for this is because we kind of, if you don't do these pieces, then one assignment is kind of based on another assignment, like the idea, the foundation that you already know how to do certain pieces. So please make sure you do that. You're going to use the assignment template provided on Blackboard. I haven't posted this yet. I'm going to post it, right? And I'm going to post it around 11 o'clock so you can start this assignment. The assignment template, again, is based on, I'm not quite finished yet, but I'm updating it, so please don't download it yet. There's something called the Sdl Engine that we're working on, okay? So again, if you go to github.com/George Brown College, you're going to see this thing called Sdl Engine. As of this recording right now, and I haven't had a chance to update it yet, we're at version 0.24. I'm going to be updating this to version 0.25 probably just a little later today. So please don't download this yet. It's going to detail a lot of changes, all right? And there's some really good changes that I'm going to give you with this one. So please wait until this is updated later today. Your assignment's going to have several scenes. You're going to have a start scene. The start scene is basically going to have a couple things. It's a little scene that's going to have a text label, that's going to have your name and your student ID. That's what's going to happen. We're going to talk about how to make a text label like that. I'm going to go through the assignment framework today in lab. That's my job today for you guys, to make sure you get what the assignment framework's all about. You're going to add a button to the start scene. By the way, I've already added a button. It's called Start Button. And so for the start scene, you can almost get 10 free marks or 10 very easy marks if you get this done. That's why it's kind of mandatory. If you can't get the start scene working, something's wrong with your code. Play scene. Your play scene will demonstrate all of your steering behaviors, right? You're going to add some text labels to the play scene to provide instructions for the user. You can use 1 for seeking, 2 for arrival. There's different kinds of behaviors we're going to be talking about. You can also use, instead of these, I will also allow you to use something called IMGUI, which is an immediate mode UI that I'm going to be sharing with you how to use today, all right, in lab. So it's super important that you attend lab today so you understand the assignment framework, which is what this whole course is based on, okay? Your play scene must include appropriate background music. So even though we're asking you to make an application, right? Background music is a requirement of your scene because you're making kind of a little game or simulation, right? You're also going to add some simple sound effects for various actions and or triggers, right? So, when your players ship or your autonomous agent's ship arrives at its destination. Maybe you want to make a little trigger that shows that that's done. Your start scene should be blank initially, so no objects are rendering. So this means you're placing. Actually, that's what this should say. You're placing, not your start scene. And you'll allow the user to select the type of behavior that you wish to demonstrate. So for example, I want to demonstrate seeking behavior. Seeking behavior, and we'll talk about this next week, is where an autonomous agent seeks towards the target. Okay, we have a target, and there's an actor sprite, and the actor goes towards the target, and it has a pattern, kind of a movement pattern that it shows as it moves toward the target. Fleeing is the opposite of seeking, where the agent runs away from the player in the opposite direction. Now, these do not also include things like arriving. Seeking continues forever. So seeking happens, it keeps on seeking, even if it's very close. And it kind of creates a pattern where it kind of circles around the target. One thing that we're also going to ask you to do is something called look where you're going. So you can make different agents move around an object. And again, let's suppose, I'm going to bring this up really quickly. We don't have a lot of time because, again, I don't want to time out. But let's suppose we have the target, which is this circle, right? Here's a circle, this is the target. And we have an agent, which is, this square, right? And I know this is very simplistic, but it kind of demonstrates the idea, right? So if I move the target, the agent around, right? And if I am seeking, what's going to happen is it's going to seek towards the target. And as soon as it reaches the target, it's going to come back this way, and it's going to come back this way, and it's going to come back this way. It's going to come back this way. And it might even come back this way and this way. It's not going to stop. That's seeking. That's what seeking will look like, okay? And why is that? Because I didn't ask for this. The seeking behavior doesn't ask for this thing to stop or arrive. Arrival is another behavior that happens. But this, if I move around the little block around, that's not look where you're going. For you to have something called look where you're going, we're going to talk about this later on. There's another thing we need to do, and I'm just going to draw a very simple nose for this ship. Let's suppose this is the direction the ship is going in. Then what we really want, as an example, let's see if I can draw this a little better here now. What we really want is the ship to go in the direction that it's moving. So it's going to look where it's going. Let's look where it's going as an example. And as it moves through the agent, then what you want it to do is you want it to turn, right, while it's moving around, this. It's going to thrust in the direction that it's going in order for it to move. It's not going to kind of move in the pattern that I originally showed you. Why? Because thrust for the ship is only in the direction it's looking. Okay, so as an example, this is kind of the behavior it looks. So it'll move around, and depending on its turn rate and its characteristics, the ship will kind of move where it's going to move in the direction that's looking. So that's looking where you're going. Look where you're going. Fleeing is the same thing. We need to use look as we're going. Arrival is where you slow down as you approach the target. That's a different behavior. So you're still seeking, but seeking, and then you have arrival. And arrival basically slows you down and stops you when you reach the target. Those are easier to do, seeking, fleeing, and arrival. And we're going to talk about some of these in lab starting next week. But one of the most difficult behaviors to get going, steering behaviors, is this one, obstacle avoidance. So where you want to kind of run around an obstacle, you create whiskers or sensors. And I'm going to go into this assignment detail a little bit more starting next week, where you want to kind of run around or avoid an object while you try to reach the target. So that is obstacle avoidance. And this is the most difficult part of this assignment. When it comes to submission, we're looking for you to remove garbage files. And the garbage files we're looking for is inside of the hidden.vs folder that's going to be created for Visual Studio. You're going to be using Visual Studio for all of these assignments. And we want to delete everything in the VS folder, but leave only the SUO file. The SUO file is kind of settings for, for your template framework. You're going to use a zip archive. I will not accept .rar files. So please do not give me RAR files. You get a 0 if you give me RAR. Only zip archives I will accept. And I highly recommend downloading and installing something called 7-zip. So download, please, if you haven't done this already, download 7-zip, okay? 7-zip is a free download. Again, you can download it for, this course is based on Windows, so it's a Windows download, 7-zip, right? I use the 64-bit version, and it incorporates nicely into your command shell, okay? So again, please do not use RAR or any other compression format, or even Windows compression. The built-in Windows compression format does not work properly at times, so please do not use that. I don't want you to use the .7z format either. It's got to be a zip format. We'll talk about that. So please download this, okay? So zip files are what we're looking for. Short video presentation that we talked about earlier, and it should be no more than 5 minutes. Don't make a 30-minute video presentation. It will not be accepted, okay? Late submissions, 10% for each day late, and you can use the code I give you. However, using external code could result in a mark of 0 for the entire assignment. So if you kind of Google stuff and you go into Stack Overflow and you add something in that we haven't talked about or something else like that, then yeah, I'm asking you not to use WinRAR at all. Please do not use WinRAR. Get rid of it. Delete it from your system. Please use WinZip, at least for this course. Okay. Assignment weight is 10% of the course grade. Here is your mark breakdown as an example. And I will be producing a rubric for this on the assignment. So when you get a mark, I'll look at start scene, your play scene, your seeking, your fleeing, your arrival, your avoidance. Each of these things are criteria that I'm looking for, and they'll all have a mark breakdown, and that's how you'll be marked. Okay, and these are the approximate marks where you're gonna get how each of these sections is going to be marked. So start scene, play scene, seeking, fleeing, arrival, and avoidance. Okay. All right. So that is the assignment 1 details. Again, guys, I wanted to talk about this separate from your the stuff we talked about here. So you can go to that video and for week 1 and just go zoom right to the assignment video if you need to know what's required for the assignment. Any questions around the stuff that I've talked about already? If you don't know what seeking behaviors are, if you don't know what steering behaviors are, we're going to be talking about it, those next week. Again, think about them as how the AI moves. And one of the things that we talk about when we discuss AI, game AI in general, is movement, right? Movement is such an important piece of it. And so this is the first thing we start handling. All right, guys, that's it for me this week from a lecture perspective. So we've talked about those things. Again, please remember where we're sitting right now. We're sitting at week 1. Again, next week, we'll be talking about steering behaviors. We'll talk about advanced steering behaviors the week after. And during week 3, your assignment 1 will be due on the Sunday. Everything is always due on the Sunday, including your lab. All right, so that's what's coming up. Any questions before we end for the day? At least the lecture part. It's already posted. You probably came in late and you didn't see it. If you look up on Blackboard, then the lecture is already posted up here. So if you look at content, and if you look inside of your course documents, and if you look at week 1, then both those lectures are posted. The first part is part 1, where I talk about course intro and intro to AI, and the second part is part 2, which is just assignment 1 details. Okay, so they're always posted, and I always post them on YouTube. You can watch it simultaneously if you need closed captioning support, or you can watch it afterwards. Any other questions before we move on? All right, guys, that's it for our lecture today and for this week. Remember that we're getting together again for our first lab for section 400. That's section 1, which is starting at 11 o'clock promptly. So we're going to go from 11 until 1. And then our second lab starts from 1 and goes until 3. So I will be recording the second lab. The first lab, again, is, we kind of do both labs, but I will record the second lab. So between the 1 and 3 time frame, every time we get together. Why? Because I'm just better at recording the second time around. And once I do the first demo the first time, the second time it becomes easier to do. Okay, so let's see you guys. Hope to see most of you guys and everybody at 1 for the people who are at Lab 400 and at, sorry, that's 401, and 11 for those people starting at 400. All right, any other questions before we go? All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you guys during lab, and I'm really excited to be with you guys this semester. I think it's going to be awesome, and there's going to be a lot of great learning for everybody. Thank you so much.